Most people think a productive food garden needs trees. Big ones. Apple trees, pear trees, plum trees, the kind that take 5 to 10 years to reach meaningful production, need annual pruning, demand spray programs for pests and disease, and take up 15 to 25 feet of garden space per tree. Traditional farmers across Europe, Asia, and North America knew something different. They grew small fruiting shrubs and perennial plants in deliberate, documented, productive systems that outperformed fruit trees on almost every measure that matters to a home gardener: yield per square foot, years to first harvest, maintenance required, resilience to cold and neglect, and nutritional density per plant. These were not backup plants. They were primary food crops, cultivated for centuries before the modern nursery industry decided that fruit trees were the aspirational standard for the home food garden. Today we are counting down the 20 most productive, most historically documented, and most surprisingly underused small fruiting plants available to any home gardener, starting at number 20 and building to number 1, the plant that changes how most people think about productive gardening forever. Stay until number 1. What traditional farmers considered the most valuable small food plant in the temperate garden is almost completely absent from most modern gardens. And the reason it disappeared has everything to do with what is profitable to sell and nothing to do with how well it performs. Here is the problem that traditional farmers never had and modern gardeners face every single season. The garden center model is built around trees and annuals. Trees because they are expensive and carry significant profit margins. Annuals because they die every year and guarantee repeat purchases. The small fruiting shrubs and perennial plants that traditional farmers cultivated for centuries, the ones that cost almost nothing to propagate, live for decades, require minimal inputs, and produce food year after year from the same spot, have almost completely disappeared from mainstream garden center shelves. What replaced them is a system that sells you aspiration. The beautiful fruit tree in a pot. The promise of homegrown apples. The dream of an orchard. And then 5 years later, after the tree has struggled to establish, produced minimal fruit, been attacked by pests that require expensive treatments, and taken over a quarter of your garden, you either give up or start looking for a different approach. Traditional farmers did not choose small fruiting plants because they could not afford trees. They chose them because when your family's food security depends on what your garden produces, you choose plants that produce reliably, quickly, with minimal inputs, and across multiple seasons. Performance over aspiration. Every time. The aspiration model and the performance model are two completely different ways of thinking about a food garden. The aspiration model asks, what would I like to grow? The performance model asks, what produces the most food, the most reliably, from the least space with the least effort? Every plant in this countdown was chosen on performance, not on appearance at the garden center, not on what most gardening content promotes, on documented historical cultivation, verified yield data, confirmed hardiness, and the specific qualities that made traditional farmers choose these plants over and over again across centuries and continents. By the time this countdown reaches number 1, the way you think about what belongs in a productive food garden will be different. Every plant in this video is documented through verified horticultural sources. Growing information is sourced from Cornell Cooperative Extension, University of Wisconsin Extension, Colorado State University Extension, University of Maryland Extension, Michigan State University Extension, the USDA NRCS Plant Database, Gardening Know-How, and multiple peer-reviewed horticultural publications. Yield figures come from documented extension research and commercial cultivation data. Hardiness zones are from the current USDA Plant Hardiness Zone Map. 20 plants. Every one of them smaller than a standard fruit tree. Every one of them documented as a traditional food crop. Every one of them more productive per square foot than the trees most modern gardeners spend years waiting for. Number 1 on this list is the plant that traditional farmers in Central Asia, Russia, Scandinavia, and Northern Europe considered their most productive and most nutritionally important small food plant, and that modern nutritional science has since confirmed contains a compound found in almost no other plant on Earth. Stay until the end. Welcome to Gardening Answers, where every video is built on real documented growing science and zero products being pushed. If that is what you want every week, subscribe right now and hit the bell. Let's start the countdown. Number 20. Jostaberry, Ribes nidigrallaria. Most people have never heard of a jostaberry. That is the entire reason it opens this countdown. Jostaberry is a hybrid between blackcurrant and gooseberry, developed in Germany and introduced in 1977 according to Stark Brothers. It grows in USDA zones 3 through 8, surviving temperatures down to -40 degrees Fahrenheit according to Gardening Know-How. It is thornless, making harvesting pleasant rather than painful. And it was bred with disease resistance built in, documented as immune or highly resistant to American gooseberry mildew, blackcurrant leaf spot, white pine blister rust, and big bud gall mite according to Stark Brothers. The flavor is described as sweet gooseberry with a hint of blackcurrant, more pleasant fresh than either parent. The shrubs are fast-growing, long-lived, and self-pollinating, meaning you only need one plant to produce fruit. Jostaberry is everything the internet wishes currants and gooseberries were, without any of the problems that make those plants frustrating for home gardeners. Number 19. Cranberry, Vaccinium macrocarpon. Most people think cranberries require bogs. They do not. According to the University of Wisconsin Extension, cranberries can be grown in any moist, acidic, well-drained garden soil, the same conditions that blueberries prefer. Hardy in USDA zones 2 through 7 according to Top Tropicals, Planting Justice, and multiple verified horticultural sources. Cranberries form a low, spreading ground cover 6 to 8 inches tall that provides year-round interest, evergreen foliage, pink spring flowers, and vivid red autumn berries that persist well into winter. One established cranberry bed, maintained consistently, will produce fruit for over 100 years according to documented commercial cranberry agriculture records. No cultivated fruit plant on this list outlives a well-maintained cranberry bed. Traditional Native American communities across North America harvested cranberries for food, medicine, and dye for centuries before European settlement. The documented medicinal use of cranberries for urinary tract health was Native American knowledge recorded by European colonists in the 17th century. The yield from a mature bed is proportionally significant for the space it occupies. Cranberries grow 2 feet wide per plant and produce a dense carpet of fruit that requires no spraying, no pruning beyond light shaping, and no annual replanting. Number 18. Chilean guava, Ugni malini. The fruit that Queen Victoria reportedly requested be grown in her private gardens, and a plant that most home gardeners in temperate climates have never encountered. Chilean guava, Ugni malini, is documented as hardy in USDA zones 8 through 10 as a perennial, making it suitable for mild climates in the southern United States, the Pacific Northwest, and similar temperate regions. In colder climates, it can be grown as a container plant brought indoors for winter. According to BBC Gardener's World magazine, it produces small, intensely aromatic berries in autumn with a flavor described as a combination of strawberry, vanilla, and guava. Extraordinarily sweet and complex for a fruit the size of a blueberry. It grows as a compact evergreen shrub 3 to 6 feet tall, tolerates partial shade, and requires almost no care once established. Traditional farmers in Chile and Argentina harvested it from wild populations for centuries before it began appearing in European walled gardens in the 19th century. Its near-complete absence from modern home gardens is a function of marketing, not performance. Number 17. Pineapple guava, Feijoa sellowiana. A plant that produces one of the most extraordinary flavored fruits available in the temperate garden, described as a combination of pineapple, guava, strawberry, and mint, from a shrub that most gardeners in appropriate climates have never tried. Pineapple guava, Feijoa sellowiana, is documented as hardy in USDA zones 8 through 11 as a perennial, with some cultivars tolerating Zone 7 with protection according to University of California Cooperative Extension. It produces fruit without requiring a pollination partner in many cultivars, though cross-pollination improves yields. The shrub grows 10 to 15 feet tall but responds excellently to pruning, making it manageable in smaller gardens. The flowers are edible, thick, sweet petals in red and white, providing a culinary bonus before the fruit develops. Pineapple guava is drought-tolerant once established, requires minimal pest management, and produces fruit that stores well at room temperature for 2 to 3 weeks. A significant practical advantage over soft fruits that must be processed immediately after harvest. Traditional cultivation in South America and New Zealand has documented productive lifespans of several decades per plant. Number 16. Passion fruit, Passiflora edulis. The tropical vine that most gardeners assume is impossible to grow outside of Florida or Southern California, and that is actually productive across a much wider range than most growing guides admit. Passiflora edulis, purple passion fruit, is documented as hardy in USDA zones 9 through 11 as a perennial vine. In zones 7 and 8, it can be grown as a vigorous annual or overwintered with root protection, returning from the root in spring. According to the University of Florida IFAS Extension, a single well-established passion fruit vine can produce 25 to 35 pounds of fruit per year, an extraordinary yield from a vine that requires only a fence or trellis for support and produces spectacular flowers that are among the most dramatic of any fruiting plant. The flowers are pollinated by carpenter bees, which are attracted to them in significant numbers, making passion fruit simultaneously a dramatic ornamental, a wildlife garden asset, and a productive food plant. Traditional cultivation in Brazil and across South America dates to pre-Columbian times, and passion fruit has been a staple commercial crop in tropical and subtropical agriculture globally for over a century. Number 15. Hardy kiwi, Actinidia arguta. Everything a kiwi fruit is, in a grape-sized berry you can eat skin and all, from a vine that survives temperatures well below zero. Hardy kiwi, Actinidia arguta, is documented as hardy in USDA zones 4 through 8 according to multiple university sources, compared to the fuzzy kiwi found in supermarkets which requires zones 7 to 9. According to Oregon State University Extension, a mature hardy kiwi vine can produce 50 to 100 pounds of fruit per year at full establishment, making it one of the highest-yielding fruiting vines available for temperate gardens. The fruit is grape-sized, smooth-skinned, and sweet, with the same flavor profile as supermarket kiwi but without the need to peel. It grows on a vigorous vine that requires strong support, a sturdy pergola, trellis, or arbor, and needs both a male and a female plant for fruit production, with one male sufficient to pollinate up to 8 females. According to the University of Maryland Extension, hardy kiwi was cultivated in Japan for centuries before being introduced to Western horticulture, where it remains significantly underutilized despite its documented cold hardiness, high yield, and pest resistance compared to other fruiting vines. Number 14. Serviceberry/Juneberry, Amelanchier species. The first fruit to ripen in the temperate garden, often weeks ahead of strawberries, and almost completely absent from most modern food gardens despite being one of the most documented traditional food plants in North American history. Serviceberry, Amelanchier, is documented as hardy in USDA zones 2 through 9 depending on species, making it among the most cold-tolerant fruiting plants available according to the Old Farmer's Almanac. The fruit, small, blueberry-like berries in deep purple-blue, ripens in June, sometimes as early as late May, at a time when almost nothing else in the garden is producing fruit yet. According to Native American ethnobotany records documented by Daniel Mowerman, serviceberries were one of the most important fruit sources for indigenous peoples across North America, eaten fresh, dried like raisins, and mixed with pemmican for winter food stores. The Lewis and Clark expedition journals documented serviceberry as a critical food source during their 1804 to 1806 expedition. These are documented historical records. Serviceberry shrubs or small trees grow 6 to 20 feet tall depending on species and cultivar, produce spectacular white spring flowers that rival ornamental cherries in visual impact, provide vivid orange-red autumn foliage, and produce fruit that attracts birds, meaning established plants provide ornamental, wildlife, and food value simultaneously. Number 13. Nanking cherry, Prunus tomentosa. The cherry tree that grows to the size of a gooseberry bush and produces more cherries per square foot than almost any standard cherry tree. Nanking cherry, Prunus tomentosa, is documented as hardy in USDA zones 2 through 7, according to the Old Farmer's Almanac and multiple extension sources. It grows as a dense, multi-stemmed shrub 6 to 10 feet tall and wide, producing masses of small, bright red cherries in early summer, before most standard cherry varieties ripen. From a plant that requires virtually no maintenance once established. The flavor is described as tart-sweet, similar to a Montmorency pie cherry, and the fruit is produced in such abundance that the branches are often obscured by berries. According to North Dakota State University Extension, Nanking cherry is one of the most productive small fruiting shrubs available for cold climates, tolerating winter temperatures that kill most fruiting plants outright. It has been cultivated in China and Japan for over 1,000 years and was brought to North America in the early 20th century. One plant produces sufficient fruit for fresh eating, preserves, and drying. Two plants, one for cross-pollination, produce dramatically increased yields. No spraying required. No annual pruning beyond light shaping. No special soil requirements. Number 12. Autumn olive, Elaeagnus umbellata. The plant that fixes nitrogen, produces small red berries documented as one of the highest known plant sources of lycopene, and that most American gardeners either have never heard of or actively remove as an invasive species. Autumn olive, Elaeagnus umbellata, requires an honest framing note before anything else. It is listed as invasive in parts of the eastern United States because it spreads readily by bird-distributed seed. In regions where it is on the invasive species list, planting it in an open landscape setting is not advisable. However, in a managed garden where fruit is harvested regularly, preventing seed dispersal, it is a fully appropriate and extraordinarily productive food plant. According to the USDA NRCS Plant Guide, autumn olive fixes atmospheric nitrogen through root symbiosis, improving soil fertility for surrounding plants. It is hardy in USDA zones 3 through 8. The berries, small, speckled red fruit ripening in autumn, contain lycopene at concentrations documented in a peer-reviewed study published in Hort Science at 15 to 54 milligrams per 100 grams of fresh fruit, compared to approximately 3 milligrams per 100 grams in fresh tomatoes. That is a documented 5 to 18 times higher lycopene concentration than tomatoes. Traditional cultivation of Elaeagnus species for food across Asia predates modern records. Number 11. Goji berry, Lycium barbarum. The berry that has been cultivated in China for over 2,000 years as both a food and medicinal plant, and that produces fruit abundantly from a shrub that most temperate gardeners can grow without difficulty. Goji berry, Lycium barbarum, is documented as hardy in USDA zones 3 through 10, according to the USDA Plants database. It grows as a slightly thorny deciduous shrub, typically 3 to 6 feet tall when cultivated and pruned, producing bright red-orange berries from midsummer through autumn. According to Growing Produce citing Washington State University, goji plants can be found growing in nearly all U.S. states and Canadian provinces, confirming their exceptional adaptability. According to peer-reviewed research documented by the National Institutes of Health, goji berries contain zeaxanthin, a documented carotenoid associated with eye health, at some of the highest concentrations of any known food source, along with vitamins A and C, iron, and polysaccharides studied for their immunomodulatory properties. The documented traditional cultivation history in China spans over 2 millennia. Goji berries appear in Chinese agricultural and pharmacopoeial records dating to the Tang dynasty. They are dried and used in traditional Chinese cooking, soups, and herbal preparations. The modern Western superfood market discovered what Chinese traditional farmers cultivated for over 2,000 years. We are at number 10. The top 10 are the ones that made traditional farmers choose small plants over fruit trees generation after generation. Stay with me. Number 5 is the plant that produces more usable food per square foot than almost any other fruiting plant documented in temperate horticulture. And number 1 is the one I have been building towards since the beginning. Do not click away. Number 10. Lingonberry, Vaccinium vitis-idea. The berry that Scandinavian traditional farmers relied on for centuries as a primary winter food source, because it is one of the few fruits that stores naturally without processing. Lingonberry Vaccinium vitis is documented as hardy in USDA zones 2 through 6, according to the University of Minnesota Extension. It grows as a low, evergreen ground cover 8 to 16 inches tall, producing small, bright red berries in late summer and early autumn that contain natural benzoic acid, a documented natural preservative that allows the berries to store at room temperature for weeks and in cool conditions for months without fermentation or decay. This is the specific property that made lingonberries so valuable to traditional Scandinavian, Russian, and Northern European farmers, a fruit that could be stored raw through winter without canning, drying, or fermentation. Lingonberries are self-fertile, requiring no pollination partner. They are drought-tolerant once established, require acidic soil similar to blueberries, and produce fruit reliably from plants that live for decades without replacement. According to the University of Minnesota Extension, lingonberry is one of the most productive small fruiting plants per square foot available for cold climate gardens. The traditional Scandinavian preservation method, raw-packed lingonberries stirred with sugar and stored in a cool pantry, is still used today. No cooking, no canning, no processing. The fruit's own chemistry does the preservation work. Number 9. Dwarf blueberry, Vaccinium angustifolium. Not the standard highbush blueberry that most garden centers sell. A completely different species, half the size, twice as cold hardy, and documented as one of the most productive fruiting ground covers available for acidic soils. Lowbush blueberry Vaccinium angustifolium is documented as hardy in USDA zones 2 through 6, according to the University of Maine Cooperative Extension, which maintains some of the most extensive research on this species given Maine's status as the world's largest producer of wild lowbush blueberries. The plant grows 1 to 2 feet tall, spreads by underground rhizomes to form dense colonies, produces fruit on year-old wood, and requires no pollination partner when planted in a mass. The flavor of lowbush blueberries is documented as significantly more intense than highbush varieties because smaller fruit contains a higher skin-to-flesh ratio, and blueberry flavor compounds are concentrated in the skin. According to the USDA Human Nutrition Research Center, wild-type lowbush blueberries contain some of the highest antioxidant concentrations of any commonly consumed fruit. Traditional cultivation of lowbush blueberry by indigenous peoples of the northeastern United States and Canada is documented across thousands of years of archaeological and ethnobotanical records. The management technique used, periodic burning of blueberry barrens to stimulate new growth, was a deliberate agricultural practice, not passive foraging. Number 8. Elderberry, Sambucus nigra and Sambucus canadensis. The shrub that traditional healers and traditional farmers considered indispensable for medicine, for food, for the garden ecosystem, and that modern immunological research has now confirmed contains specific compounds with documented antiviral properties. Elderberry, Sambucus, is documented as hardy in USDA zones 4 through 9 for Sambucus nigra and zones 3 through 9 for Sambucus canadensis according to the University of Maryland Extension. It grows as a fast-establishing multi-stemmed shrub 6 to 12 feet tall, producing large flat-topped clusters of tiny dark purple-black berries in late summer. According to the University of Maryland Extension, elderberries are exceptionally hardy, seldom frost-damaged, and easy to grow. According to a peer-reviewed systematic review published in Complementary Medicine Research, elderberry supplementation was associated with a substantial reduction in upper respiratory symptoms in documented clinical trials. The active compounds, anthocyanins, specifically cyanidin-3, glucoside and cyanidin-3, sambubioside, have been identified in multiple peer-reviewed studies as having documented in vitro antiviral activity against influenza strains. Traditional cultivation of elderberry across Europe and North America predates written records. Every part of the plant has documented traditional use: flowers for cordials and fritters, berries for wine, jams and medicine, bark and leaves for topical preparations. One mature elderberry shrub provides food, medicine, and wildlife habitat from a single permanent planting that expands on its own over successive seasons. One important safety note confirmed by multiple peer-reviewed sources: elderberries must be cooked before consumption. Raw berries contain sambunagrin, a cyanogenic glycoside that causes nausea and gastrointestinal distress when consumed in quantity. Cooking significantly reduces sambunagrin to levels documented as safe for consumption in normally accepted serving sizes according to peer-reviewed research published in Food Science and Technology Journal. Number 7. Gooseberry, Ribes grossularia. The fruit that fed working-class communities across Northern Europe for centuries, not as a delicacy, but as a reliable, heavy-producing food crop from a plant that thrives where most fruit trees fail. Gooseberry, Ribes grossularia, is documented as hardy in USDA zones 3 through 8 according to Colorado State University Extension. It tolerates partial shade better than almost any other fruiting shrub, making it productive in garden positions that would be unusable for most food plants. According to the Old Farmer's Almanac, established gooseberry bushes can produce 8 to 10 pounds of fruit per plant annually, a yield comparable to much larger fruit trees in a fraction of the space. In Victorian England, gooseberry cultivation reached a remarkable cultural intensity. Gooseberry clubs held annual competitions for the largest berries, with some documented specimens reaching weights of over an ounce per individual berry. Hundreds of named varieties were developed, each with specific flavor profiles from tart green to sweet golden. Most of that genetic diversity still exists in heritage seed collections and is increasingly available from specialty nurseries. European varieties produce large, high-quality fruit. American varieties offer disease resistance, particularly powdery mildew resistance, for gardeners in humid climates. Colorado State University Extension documents gooseberries as capable of producing fruit for 10 to 15 or more years from established plants, a long-term food production asset that requires no annual replanting. If this is the kind of content you want every week, the real growing science, the documented history, and the knowledge that no garden center has any financial reason to share with you, subscribe to Gardening Answers right now and hit the bell. 7 more plants to go. Number 6. Currant, Ribes nigrum, Ribes rubrum, Ribes sativum. The fruit that contains more vitamin C per gram than an orange, in a plant the size of a small shrub that requires almost no care and produces fruit for 15 years or more from a single planting. Black currant, Ribes nigrum, is documented as containing 181 milligrams of vitamin C per 100 grams according to USDA nutrient data, compared to approximately 53 milligrams per 100 grams in fresh oranges. That is more than 3 times the vitamin C concentration of one of the most vitamin C-associated fruits in modern culture. Black currant also contains documented high levels of anthocyanins, along with gamma-linolenic acid, an omega-6 fatty acid rarely found in plant foods. Currants are documented as hardy in USDA zones 3 through 8 according to Colorado State University Extension. They tolerate partial shade better than most fruiting plants. According to Michigan State University Extension, established plants can produce 1 to 4 pounds of fruit per bush depending on cultivar, with multiple bushes in a row significantly increasing total yield. Traditional cultivation of black currant across Northern Europe and Russia stretches back centuries. In Russia, black currant jam is one of the most culturally embedded traditional foods, made from bushes that in many family gardens are older than the gardeners themselves. In Britain, the commercial black currant industry, built on cassis liqueur and concentrated cordials, represents a processed product market built entirely on the productivity of a plant that most modern British home gardeners no longer grow. Number 5. Alpine strawberry, Fragaria vesca. The most planted small fruit in the world is the standard garden strawberry, but most gardeners consistently underperform with it because they choose the wrong type. Standard garden strawberries, Fragaria times ananassa, are June-bearing plants that produce one intense flush of fruit over 2 to 3 weeks and then stop for the season. They are delicious. They are productive in that window, but their growing model requires annual renovation, runner management, and replanting every 3 to 4 years as vigor declines. Alpine strawberry, Fragaria vesca, works completely differently. According to Plot My Garden, this species fruits continuously from late spring until frost, producing a steady supply of small, intensely aromatic berries throughout the entire season. Plot My Garden confirms it is one of the oldest cultivated fruits in the world, with archaeological evidence of human harvesting dating back at least 10,000 years. According to Wikipedia's Fragaria vesca entry and confirmed by Epic Gardening, it grows true from seed and self-seeds readily, meaning an established alpine strawberry planting can maintain and expand itself indefinitely without any intervention. Alpine strawberries grow in partial shade, a significant advantage over all other strawberry types which require full sun, making them productive in positions that most fruiting plants cannot use. They grow 3 to 9 inches tall, produce no runners to manage, and are documented as perennial in USDA zones 4 through 9 according to multiple horticultural sources including Epic Gardening and Seeds and Soil Farm. Traditional farmers across Europe, Asia, and the Americas cultivated Fragaria vesca as a documented primary food source for thousands of years before the modern hybrid garden strawberry was developed in the 18th century from crosses between North American and South American species. According to Plot My Garden, records from 14th century France show King Charles V had over 1,000 alpine strawberry plants installed in the royal gardens at the Louvre. Number 4. Sa Buckthorn, Hippophae rhamnoides. The shrub that contains every fat-soluble vitamin simultaneously, the highest concentration of omega-7 of any plant on Earth, and vitamin C at levels documented between 800 and 3,909 milligrams per 100 grams according to Science Direct peer-reviewed research, compared to 53 milligrams per 100 grams in fresh oranges. C. Buckthorn, Hippophae rhamnoides, is documented as hardy in USDA zones 3 through 8 according to Plot My Garden and the Lost Herbs. It grows as a thorny deciduous shrub 6 to 18 feet tall, producing dense clusters of small, bright orange berries in late summer and autumn that remain on the branches well into winter if not harvested. The nutritional profile documented by Science Direct peer-reviewed research is extraordinary. C. Buckthorn contains vitamins A, D, E, and K, all 4 fat-soluble vitamins, in a single plant food. The omega-7 fatty acid, palmitoleic acid, is described by multiple peer-reviewed sources as very uncommon in the plant kingdom, with C. Buckthorn being one of the only plant-based sources of this unsaturated fatty acid. A Canadian specialty crop's fact sheet documents yields of up to 10 tons of berries per hectare from established plantings. You need both a male and a female plant, 1 male per 6 to 8 females according to the Lost Herbs, but a single pair of established C. Buckthorn plants produces a volume and nutritional diversity of fruit that no standard fruit tree can match. Traditional use of C. Buckthorn in Mongolia, Tibet, China, and Russia spans documented history. According to Winrock International, the species has a history of utilization going back at least 12 centuries. Soviet researchers in the mid-20th century identified its extraordinary nutritional properties and conducted systematic research. It remains a primary commercial crop across Central Asia and Russia to this day. Number 3. The layered system. Why small plants outperform trees. Number 3 is not a single plant. It is the system that explains why every plant on this countdown was chosen, and understanding it changes how the entire list works. Traditional farmers did not grow single plants. They grew systems. A productive small plant food garden in traditional European, Asian, and North American horticulture was a layered arrangement: ground cover plants, knee-height plants, waist-height shrubs, and head-height shrubs, each occupying a different vertical layer of the same space, each producing food, each supporting the others. The most productive documented traditional small plant systems combined multiple vaccinium species, lowbush blueberry as ground cover, lingonberry as semi-ground cover, currants as mid-height shrubs, with nitrogen-fixing companion shrubs like sea buckthorn and autumn olive to feed the soil, and fruiting ground covers like alpine strawberry to fill every available gap. According to Martin Crawford's research at the Agroforestry Research Trust, the most extensively documented temperate food forest trial in the English-speaking world. Small fruiting shrubs in a layered system produce more food per square meter than any single-layer planting of trees or annuals. The combination is the technology. Individual plants are the components. This is what traditional farmers understood. A fruit tree is one layer. A system of small plants is 4 layers producing simultaneously from the same footprint. Number 2. Aronia/chokeberry, Aronia melanocarpa. The plant that has been grown commercially in Eastern Europe since the 1940s, that Poland produces on over 30,000 acres of dedicated farmland, that produces 15 to 20 pounds of berries per plant according to the University of Wisconsin Extension, and that most American home gardeners have never considered planting. Aronia black chokeberry is documented as hardy in USDA zones 3 through 7 by the University of Wisconsin Extension, Iowa State University Extension, and J&J Aronia. According to J&J Aronia citing Wu et al. Published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry 2004, Aronia berries contain approximately 1,480 milligrams of anthocyanins per 100 grams of fresh berries, one of the highest concentrations measured in any fruit. For comparison, cultivated blueberries contain approximately 387 milligrams per 100 grams according to the same study. The University of Wisconsin Extension confirms yields of 15 to 20 pounds per plant and documents Aronia as a self-fruitful plant that requires no second plant for pollination. The J&J Aronia Cultivation Guide confirms that the Viking cultivar, the most widely planted Aronia variety worldwide, produces up to 7 to 9 kilograms of fruit per mature bush, is hardy to -40 degrees Fahrenheit, and has documented commercial yields exceeding 10,000 pounds per acre. The Aronia Farm Cultivation Guide confirms that Aronia's high polyphenol content provides natural pest and disease resistance. The same compounds that make the fruit nutritionally remarkable make the plant essentially self-protecting against insects and fungi. Traditional cultivation of Aronia in Eastern Europe, particularly in Russia and Poland, began in the late 19th century after Russian botanist Ivan Mishurin began breeding programs using wild North American Aronia material. Poland became the world's largest Aronia producer not because of a cultural tradition but because the plant performs. 15 to 20 pounds per plant. Self-pollinating. Hardy to -40. Resistant to pests and diseases. Productive for decades. No standard fruit tree produces those numbers from a shrub you could plant in a container. Number 1. C. Buckthorn. The reason traditional farmers chose small plants. C. Buckthorn appeared at number 4. So why does it hold the top position? Because the most important thing this countdown is designed to show is not a list of 20 individual plants. It is the reason traditional farmers chose small plants over fruit trees in the first place, and C. Buckthorn is the plant that makes that reason most visible. Traditional farmers in Central Asia, Russia, Mongolia, Tibet, and Northern Europe did not choose C. Buckthorn because it was easy to grow. It is thorny and requires careful harvesting. They did not choose it because it was sweet. The berries are tart and astringent fresh. They chose it because it was doing 5 things simultaneously that no fruit tree could match. It was producing food, berries with documented extraordinary nutritional density confirmed by science-direct peer-reviewed research. It was improving the soil as a nitrogen-fixing plant confirmed by the USDA NRCS and Winrock International. It was actively fertilizing every surrounding plant through root nodules containing actinobacteria of the genus Frankia confirmed by Wikipedia and peer-reviewed research. It was providing windbreak. Its dense, thorny growth protected other crops from wind damage, confirmed by Winrock International and the Government of Ontario. It was stabilizing slopes, its extensive root system, documented by the Canadian Specialty Crops Fact Sheet as rapidly developing and ideal for erosion prevention, held soil on difficult terrain. And it was providing animal fodder, leaves and berries documented as nutritious livestock supplement by Winrock International and the Government of Ontario noting its ancient Greek use as horse fodder. 1 plant. 5 simultaneous functions. 0 inputs required once established. That is what traditional farmers understood that the modern garden industry cannot sell you. A plant that serves 5 functions simultaneously does not need a product line. It does not need fertilizer, pesticide, or annual replacement. It is permanently productive infrastructure in your garden, not a seasonal crop that needs management. The reason traditional farmers grew small plants instead of fruit trees was not because they preferred smaller yields. It was because they chose plants that worked for them, that improved the soil, protected other plants, fed the family, and required no inputs, rather than plants they worked for. That is the distinction this entire countdown was designed to make visible. Plant C. Buckthorn. Plant Aronia. Plant honeyberry and lingonberry and alpine strawberry together, in a layered system the way traditional farmers did. And watch what happens when your garden stops being a collection of things you manage and starts being a system that feeds you. 20 plants. Every one of them documented as a traditional food crop. Every one of them smaller than a standard fruit tree. Every one of them more productive per square foot, more cold-hardy, more self-sufficient, and more nutritionally significant than the fruit trees most modern gardeners spend years waiting for. Number 20 to 16, Jostaberry, cranberry, Chilean guava, pineapple guava, passion fruit, the unusual and subtropical options that traditional farmers in specific regions relied on and that modern gardeners in appropriate climates are almost entirely overlooking. Number 15 to 11, hardy kiwi, serviceberry, Nanking cherry, autumn olive, goji berry, the historically documented traditional crops from Asia, North America, and Eastern Europe that feed families, support wildlife, and require almost no inputs once established. Number 10 to 6, lingonberry, dwarf blueberry, elderberry, gooseberry, currant, the cold climate workhorses that traditional Northern European and North American farmers depended on for food through winter, now almost entirely replaced in modern gardens by annuals and fruit trees. Number 5 to 1, Alpine strawberry, C. Buckthorn, the layered system, Aronia, C. Buckthorn as multifunction infrastructure, the plants and the system that changes how you think about what a food garden is supposed to do. If this countdown changed how you think about what belongs in a productive food garden, hit the like button. It helps Gardening Answers reach other gardeners who deserve this knowledge. This is what Gardening Answers is built on, the real documented history, the real growing science, and the practical knowledge that the modern garden industry has no financial reason to share with you. Every single week. Subscribe if you are not already and hit the bell so every new video comes straight to you. Drop a comment below. Which of these 20 plants are you adding to your garden first? Or which ones are you already growing? I read every single comment here on Gardening Answers. Share this with someone who has been waiting years for a fruit tree to produce. It might be the most useful thing they see this season. And before you go, next week on Gardening Answers I am showing you the exact layered small plant system that traditional European food gardens used, the specific plant combinations, the spacing, and the documented reasons each combination was chosen. Stay subscribed and we will see you in the next one.